should be. There it is. All right. Looks like we are started. So, as Dr. Gupta said, my name is Chris DiPanetta. I'm one of the instruction librarians here on campus. That means that my job here is to help you navigate and evaluate some of the best resources that you can for the studies that you're going to be doing here as a college student at Midwestern State University. We don't have an awful lot of time to cover everything that I tend to, so we're going to kind of jump through some things rather quickly. If you need me to slow down or repeat anything, then just pop that in the chat. I'll try to address that as I can. But for the most part, let's just kind of go through here and um, just go through what we have. The first thing you'll notice, I'm starting here on the library website. It's a little bit convoluted to get into it though. Before we had a drop-down menu under academics, now we have to go into that page and click on it. So what we actually want to do to get started to access the library website, this is the easiest way to do it, and this is going to actually give you the most of the library content that we have. The first thing we'll want to do is to go to the login drop-down and click on My MSU Texas. This will take you into your banner page. We also have a link into D2L now that's a little bit easier to get into than it was, but I'm going to go ahead and just sign into my portal page, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as I'm going forward. Essentially, because all of what we have here is going to be designated specifically for students, it has to be either accessed on campus or through your account credentials, which is why the first thing we want to do is log in. That way we have access to everything. You don't have to be here in the building to do all of your research. You can do all of this at the comfort of your own home, however it is that you prefer to study. The most important thing is that at the beginning, we make sure that we get access to all of what we're looking for. So we have three links in our banner portal right now, D2L, your library account, and a link to our library research databases. Now, all three of these are, you're going to be using D2L anyway. It's useful to get into library research databases. My preferred way to get into the library from this banner page is actually going to go through your library account. I'll talk about that very briefly, but if you're going through D2L, just know this is going to be very quick. This is just kind of an off the side thing. If you're coming in through D2L, we just implemented a new page to get into the library through here. Under the More tab in your D2L page, there's a link right here to the library. And if you actually click on that link, you'll see that there is a brand new kind of tutorial page specifically for the library for remote learning students and anyone who's coming in through D2L. So if you are using this to access your library information or anything, just know that this is here and it is brand new. We are going to start refreshing it every semester just so that everyone has access and is aware of all the tools that you have at your disposal for the library. But this is just kind of an aside. If you use or are used to using D2L, this is here. Um, to actually talk about the library resources that we have, like I said before, we have two links in your board in your banner homepage that will get you directly to your library resources. The first, library account. The second is library research databases. I'm going to go into the library account because there's actually another link to these same research databases from your account. You also get access to a whole lot more through here. So let's just go ahead and click on that. First thing it's going to ask you is what designation are you? Of course, you're MSU Texas student. So we'll click on this link. And this will bring you directly into your Moffitt Library account. As we can see here, I don't have anything checked out. Bad librarian that I am, I'm not reading anything at the moment, sorry. Some of the other options that we have here, this first bar here is the library catalog. If you're looking for anything in our system, you can search for that here. That doesn't just include books that we have on the shelf. If you specifically have the title of an article that you're looking for, you can search that through here and see if we have access to it directly into our databases. So very useful to know that this is right here. Any page that you're on in the library, there's going to be access to the library catalog. And that includes items that are not just included directly in our building. Keep that in mind as we continue forward, because you're going to see that there's a lot that you have access to that you may really not know just how much there is. Also here we have a link to some library resources. This includes, say, a link to the homepage, link to research guides. But when we see here, directly in the middle of our resources is a link to the library databases. This is the exact same link as the one on the banner homepage. This is why I say it's probably going to be easier for you to go through here because you have access to a lot more here. If you know that you're going to go straight to the databases, that's also a good option. But this is just my preferred way to do a search. Um, so you can see we have a lot of options here. And one thing, this is kind of just a hint for things to come, is that yes, this will be, not only will this be helpful for all your classes, I'm going to cover some things that will be helpful for your class here, but they're also going to be helpful for a lot of different disciplines and a lot of different classes. So I think this is going to be very useful. But just as a kind of showing you something, jumping ahead a little bit, clicking on the request tab in your account, you can see an article that I requested through Interlibrary Loan. I did this to give examples for my students just so we can see what that's going to look like if you ever need to request a scholarly journal article that we don't have access to. There's also a tutorial on this in your account page if you're ever unsure of what interlibrary loan is. We have a whole page dedicated to explaining that. But basically, if we don't have something in our library that includes, if we don't have a physical book or piece of media like a DVD, or if you ever need a CD for whatever reason, if we don't have access to that in our building, you can request that through another library. And not only is that something that you can do limitlessly as much as you want, you can actually request any items that you want, no matter what. Um, you can do this as much as you want. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but this gives you a basic overview of what that's going to look like. And we're actually going to see how useful that can be whenever we start looking in our research databases. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of an upper respiratory thing right now. Does anyone have any questions about this account before we actually go into our databases? No? All right. Sounds good. So, excuse me. Like I said before, two ways that you can access the databases directly. There are two links here. We're going to go straight ahead from the account page. And I'm also going to keep that open so we can go back and look at that article a little bit later. And actually, I need to take a sip of water. Coffee's not so good for me right now. Whenever we go through here, we can see that we have access to 188 research databases. And these range from quite a wide variety of disciplines and types of content that we have. For example, we have most of them are going to be focused on academic research and peer-reviewed journal articles. Some of them are going to be focused on streaming movies. Some of them are going to be more directly focused on specific fields that you're going to be looking at. But as I'm going through here, what I really want to focus on today is a specific, very broad kind of all-in database that's called Gale Academic OneFile. So I'm going to narrow this down to just databases starting with a G. And actually, if you look here, we can see that most of these are going to be Gale databases. So a full third of our databases are from the same vendor or the same suite of databases. So once you learn how to use one of these, you're going to have a very good idea of how to use that same exact type of research and knowledge in just about every other field here that you're going to be looking for. What this means, though, when I say that we're looking up academic or scholarly journals, a vast majority of these are going to be peer-reviewed, and peer review just means that other researchers or professionals in a field have looked at this essay or this article before it was fully published, and they've signed off on it. They've essentially said this is valuable information. It's been researched, it's formatted correctly, and format is very important here. everything about it is um, basically good to go. It's something that can be used as valuable research information and studies for other people who are interested in this specific topic. That's not to say when one of your professors says, I need peer-reviewed articles for whatever you're doing, whatever paper you're writing, they're not saying it just to be mean and giving you extra work. They're saying it because when you see something as peer-reviewed, that means that it is verifiable and that it is accurate, among other things. But that's the main reason why you want to make sure that we're finding these here in one of these research databases. Finding some random uh, Angel Fire page on Google from 1999 is probably almost definitely not going to be peer reviewed. If we're finding it on something like Gale or one of our other research databases, there is a nearly 100% chance that it will be peer reviewed. And even if it's not, we have ways that we can guarantee the results are going to be. So while we're here, we see that it's kind of stark and we're not really sure, like if I were looking at this for the first time, in fact, I believe when I looked at this for the first time, I had no idea what I was looking at. It's just a search engine bar and just a few other links. So what we want to do is know how to speak to the database and have it find information for us. So I know that a big topic that we're going to be looking at, especially you for your research, is going to be on diversity issues, diversity in specific areas and fields and subjects. So let's say, for example, I'm looking up diversity in healthcare. Dr. Gupta and I were talking about this before. We talked about diversity in healthcare. And let's see what happens when I just type in that in particular. And when I just type in diversity in particular, just that one word, you can see that it starts to autofill with a bunch of different suggestions. And these aren't just like how Google will suggest popular results. These are actually how they are input into the system. That way, you're able to use exactly the specific subject terms to get the best results back. So let's just say, let's try just diversity in healthcare. And you can use those. Yes, thank you, Dr. Gupta. You can use those to figure out just where you want to go, how you want to navigate your research in particular. If you're not sure where to go, um, or where to even begin your research, this could sometimes jumpstart that search for you. It could say, hey, maybe you're looking for this. Maybe this is the phrase that you want to actually use, or maybe you're not thinking that this is the proper way of researching this topic. This autofill can really help you to get a good grasp on where to start if you're not really sure how or where to look. So let's just look at diversity in healthcare and see what comes up. Yes, use something from your field. Make it something you've thought about. That's exactly correct. Make it something that you are actually going to be researching. Make it something that you know you already are starting to think about. It's something that's going to be useful for you in your studies. When I do this search, we can see that we get a few good results back. We have 934 academic articles. And as we look through here, we can already see that most of them are peer reviewed. This little checkbox here shows up on all these articles. And if you are unsure of where to even begin, you might start to think, well, this is pretty good. I'm just going to start going through here and checking to make sure, I'm going to go through here and see if there's good research here. And since we're already talking about kind of a medical field, I was talking about diversity in healthcare. I can tell you right now that almost none of these are going to be good. The reason for that is because these are kind of old. I'm actually surprised by how old these articles are, the way that they're showing up as the most relevant. So, for example, this first example is managing diversity in healthcare. I mean, yeah, that title tells us something. It tells us it might be a good uh, bit of research, but as we look down, we can start seeing just a few things that are really raising some red flags to show that this is not going to be a good um, a good paper for us to use as our research. First of all, this paper is 25 years old. Um, There's absolutely nothing that we would want to use that's 25 years old, especially in a medical field. If you're in nursing or radiology or anything to do um, with health studies, you want to use something that's at most 5 years old. We want to narrow down results that's not, this old. If it's more than 5 years old, you probably just want to throw that out just to begin with. There are a lot of reasons for that, but also this isn't even an article. Even though it says it comes from a peer-reviewed source, this is a book review. So whenever we click on this article, we're going to see that it's giving us information about purchasing the book. It's going to give us information about publication. Um, there's no limit on years. All right, some are similar works. All right, so for this class in particular, it looks like there's not really a need to do that, but just so you know, there are ways that we can narrow that down so that for your studies, whatever it is that you're doing later on down the road, if you're, depending on what it is that you're looking for, there are ways that we can narrow it down so that if there is a specific range of titles, say a publication date you're looking at, there are options to, excuse me, to narrow down that result. That is to say, though, like I said, you got a bit of a sore throat. Um, that is to say that there are ways that you can make this a little bit easier for yourself whenever you're actually doing your research. Sorry, this is going to be terrible on the recording. Um, so before we actually start looking at our articles that we get back here, it's probably a good idea to come in and revise your search or do an advanced search to begin with. That way we can kind of break down some areas that's going to make this a little bit easier. So under advanced search, I know that I'm looking up diversity. I'm looking up diversity or inclusion topics. Let's just say diversity. Let's see what happens. Diversity, whenever we have the quotation, that's just to say that um, this is the one topic that's going to come up. Any article that has the quote unquote diversity in the article somewhere in the keyword is going to show up in our results. The next thing we're going to do is include a second term. This is also going to show up. We're going to look up healthcare. So there are a bunch of different ways that they're telling us we might want to narrow down our results. You mean the healthcare industry, system, services? There are a lot of different ways that we can break this down. And I'm just going to say healthcare services. Let's see if this gives us good results. You can make as many of these searches as you want, and if this turns out to be something that gives us dozens or maybe even hundreds of good results, good, we can use that. If it comes up with almost nothing, then we scrap it and we try again and see if the next result gives us something. One last thing before I continue on from here. You can see that these terms have this drop-down menu for that it contains a few different words. These are called Boolean operators, and these are ways to either include or like exclude different types of information from your searches. So if I wanted to find both of these, I want diversity and I want healthcare services. They have to both be in this search that I'm looking for. They have to both be part um, of my research that I'm doing. If I wanted diversity and you know healthcare services is one, maybe I want to say instead healthcare
Maybe just workplace,
workplace, yeah, or just workplace, not even healthcare services, just workplace,
human resource,
human
HR,
resource. Yeah, let's
anywhere.
human resources. Yeah, let's see. Maybe I want to find one in healthcare, or I want to find an article in human resources. So what this is doing is saying, all right, diversity is going to be a phrase that has to show up. And I can find something about healthcare services or human resources. At the very least, diversity will appear, and one of these two other phrases will also appear in my results. And you can narrow this down really, really specifically if you want to. In fact, I can keep adding up to 10 subjects for this. Like I said, really, really specifically if you want to. I really don't recommend it when you're first starting, but these are some of the options that we give you here. And also just some additional details about what this is. If you're unsure, Also, you can just contact me and ask if you're unsure. But some other things that we're going to do here, we can see that we have this option for search limiters. This also shows up in the search over on the side of the screen. This is something that we can do as we are doing our research. So we don't have to come back here if we don't want to. If we already have our search, we can just do these limiters as we are doing the search. But before I actually do this, I have a specific set that I like to do these. The first, I'm going to turn off full text documents. Now, there are two specific reasons why we would want to turn this off. One is that even though Gale Academic OneFile is very broad, in fact, it's probably the biggest database that we have. All of those other Gale databases take the specific subjects from this one and like kind of take a slice of those and make them their own database. A very large majority of them do. But that doesn't mean that everything we have is going to be available in this one database. It might be in something completely different. We're just going to say, what if we find the perfect article that's going to come out and it's not going to be in this database? Well, we want to see if that's somewhere else in our library, in our database system. The other option is we don't have it at all. We're gonna find something that's a really spectacular article. It's going to be the exact research that you need, but we don't have it in any of our databases. By clicking off of full text documents, this is saying, okay, we're going to look at every library like worldwide to see if one of them has this article. And then if that's the case, we're going to search it through interlibrary loan. We're going to make a request there and we're going to get it to you, whatever it is that you need, we're going to get it to you. It might take a little while extra, but you'll see it's a lot easier than you might think. The second option is for peer-reviewed journals. Now, like I said before, a lot of these you can break down by academic journals. You can break down and see like the checkbox that says it's a peer-reviewed article. But like we said before, even though we found one that said it was peer-reviewed, it was actually a book review. So what we want to do here is click on this middle option here so that all of our results are going to be, for the most part, peer-reviewed articles that are going to be useful for our research. And then the third one, you are almost certainly never going to need to find research that contains images. If you're like in a business class, say something that needs like charts or graphs, or if you're doing something in radiology or medicine that uh, is going to require you to show X-ray scans or whatever else, like medical images or whatnot, you may need to click on that one. But um, for the most part, a lot of these journals, if that's what you're already looking for, it's probably going to be included anyway. So I never specify that. You may have a reason to, but it's just an option that we give you. Finally, publication dates. I said before, a lot of those journal articles were really old. For your research, there are going to be good works, like really useful works that don't have recency to them, but they're still going to be very useful. I'm going to say, just as an example, just for my purposes, this isn't specifically for you, this is just to show for my example here. I'm going to only look for articles that are 10 years old or more recent than that. Like I said before, if you're in like a medical field, you'll probably have a professor who says go 5 years or more recent. So you'd want to go down to 2019. That's because older medical research, it's constantly being updated. You can find something that might seriously injure someone. So you want to make sure that your articles in that case are more recent. But for this case, we're going to go 10 years back. It really just depends on what it is that your professor is looking for. So if you're not sure, just ask them and they'll tell you. From here, though, I think this looks good. We're going to hit search and see how many articles come back. Since we did OR, yeah, 10,000 articles, that's quite a bit. So we're going to want to start going down here and actually evaluating the articles that we get to see if there are any that are going to be useful for what we're looking for. So, first article here. This is from August of this year. It's a month old. The impact of the scale and hierarchical structure of health human resources on the level of medical services based on China's four major economic regions. Now, I'm not so sure that this is going to be based on a topic of diversity. I could click on the article and see, all right, human resources, that shows up quite a bit. We'll see highlighted examples of what it is that we were looking for and see what context it was being discussed. And I'm not seeing anything at all about diversity right now. And as I'm scrolling through here, again, I apologize for my voice cracking, but when you have two small children, you just assume that you're going to be sick forever. But again, yeah, I'm not seeing anything to do with diversity in any of this here. So I'm just going to say, even if this is a good article, we're going to shelve this one and come back to it. Maybe we can come back to it later if we need to, but let's just skip it for now. Second one, global response to continuing education needs in pediatrics, a survey study. Okay. Well, here's another red flag. This is only 472 words long. Um, this could be, I mean, I don't see an example of that, but this could be good research. You can't really fit a whole lot of research into 472 words. So this again is something that I'm going to say, I don't know, let's skip this one. There are a bunch of ways that you can evaluate an article before you even start doing the reading. This one doesn't cover anything about diversity. This one is like too scant. It doesn't give us any information really at all. So we want to find something that's going to be um, not just useful for our purposes. We want to make sure that it has a lot of really good information and a lot of good data that's going to be inside of that article. Now, what's kind of amazing to me is that for these first few pages, I'm not seeing any that our library doesn't hold. That kind of puts a stop in what I usually do by showing you what happens when you find it. Finally, 24 results in. This is an example of an article that we don't have right away. It took all the way down here to find this. Usually it's within the first 5 or 6 articles, but here's an example. Exploring contemporary challenges in public administration and higher education. It seems kind of generic, but let's see what's going on here. There's no abstract available. Interesting. So there could be any reason why your professor would want you to find an article like this. Like maybe it's the author, maybe it's something from the publication itself. There could be any number of reasons, although probably not because this says it's a book review also. Um, I think I found an example of a good search because there aren't a whole lot that we don't have access to. And the first one we do have access or we don't have access to, we also can't use because it's a book review. Now, follow along with me because we're already 24 examples in and I'm not really seeing a reason why this wouldn't change, but let's just say this is an article that you need to find for whatever reason. Um, like I said before, we have 2 reasons why you would, or why we would not have this article and why you would want to find them. The first is that we just don't have it in Gale Academic One file. This database in particular doesn't have access to this journal article. Okay, maybe there are other articles or other databases that we have that do have access to it. So first thing we can do over here on the side, we can see that there is a link to check Moffat Library for availability. Let's see what happens here. Let's see what happens when we do this. Nothing. See, sometimes there are examples where this is available from like a EBSCO host, like Medline or Senol or some other PsycInfo, something like that. This one, however, does not. If that were the case, it would say, here, click on this link and you'll get into the article from somewhere else. This one is an article that we don't have access to anywhere. In that case, I can say that I want to request this through interlibrary loan. And this is one of the main reasons I say go into your library account first, because everything's going to all be in one place. We're not going to have to start going through a bunch of different other resources or different tabs or anything else because it's already going to be open for you. When we click request through interlibrary loan, all of the information you need is auto-filled just right away. Journal title, title of the article, authors. The only thing you have to really fill out is when you need the article. Say we have a month to write this paper. Um, Theoretically, you'd want to have it at least 2 weeks before the due date. That I say 2 weeks. It's just whatever it is. If a professor has a um, if a professor has a specific assignment that says like, give me all of your research articles and like an annotated bibliography or something by this date, you want to make sure you have the article in before that so you can include all the relevant information. Um, and yes, as Dr. Gupta says here, this is completely free. You can do it as much as you want. There's no limit to how many articles you can request through interlibrary loan. And what I really like also is that it doesn't just include articles here. And it doesn't just mean that you can just say you want a book shipped from a different library. Submit your request today. Yes. As soon as possible. As soon as you know that there's one that you want, submit the request and we're going to get it to you as soon as we can. And we do say 2 to 3 days. You might wait 3 to 4 days. It really just depends. So, um, yeah, so you can submit this at any time. If there is uh, a chapter of a book that you want a copy of, they can also scan that chapter of a book and send it directly to you. I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute, but before we continue on, I really want to point out some other features that are really, really useful here. So I'm just going to say,
Could you show them how to get the citation?
yes, that's actually
The
exactly where I was going to
APA
go with this because
citation, we have about 5 to 7 minutes left. So if you can just show, because that automatically creates the APA citation. And that is
so
going to be crucial for them for their assignment.
So, yeah, I'm going to just show like just as an example, this is the first article that we have. Let's say we want to use this in our research. So you could, I mean, of course, you want to have a copy of the APA style guide. Of course, you want to have that. You want to have access to it. The library has 2 copies if you ever need to come grab a copy of it, or just go to the reference stacks and use them. However, you can also just click on the cite tool in the article itself, and all of this is going to be filled in for you. There are some things that you'll need to make sure of. Of course, you could go to one of the websites like Al Purdue and just make sure that this information is correct. But rather than go through and plug in the information yourself and put in the article and the authors and everything else, this will fill in most of that for you. So we say here, okay, yeah, this one, honestly, this does look good to me. This looks like it has just about all the pertinent information that we need, except for page number. But again, let's say I want to use this for one of my articles. I can download the article itself right here, um, and just take a look at it here, and I can see what pages it is. Whenever it says page count, this means what is the page that it was published on originally in the journal that it's from. So this is a 14-page document. It doesn't mean cite page. Well, actually, it does here on this one. But for the most part, it'll show the page number from the journal that it's from. This is page 2 of 14. It might be page like 300 something. It really just depends on what's in this article. It doesn't necessarily mean the article that or the page number that's showing up. Um, so there are a bunch of different ways that you can keep this, maintain it forever. You can also cite the article, do the entire APA citation on its own. Something else that I highly recommend is that you can actually send this article to yourself. So you have all of this information all in one place. So I can say send this to me in an email. There's my email address. Now in the message, what's really cool here, I'm going to say I want to drop in that APA citation. I'm going to copy the whole thing and this window stays up. I'm going to drop in that citation. And you know what? While I'm here, I'm going to have the permanent link to the article as well. This article or this link up here in the browser is not actually permanent. It's going to go away as soon as you log off. So use this article. I keep saying article. Use this link right here. It'll say get link, or depending on where it is, it might say permalink. You want to put that in your message too, anything else that you might need. And whenever you send that to yourself, the article will be sent to you as a PDF. Yes, this is the citation you put on the course website. Yeah, there you go. And Dr. Gupta will give you all the information about that on your assignment as well. Are there any questions before I sign off here? Because I know I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I know that it's kind of getting up on the hour.
Any questions, anyone?
All right, and look at that. It's already here. If everyone can see my page, here is or my email. This is exactly how it's going to come in. The PDF of the article is just right here, exactly as it was printed in the journal, and all the information that I included in it, which includes the permanent link, citation, all of this stuff is going to be right here in your email. Oh, one last thing, whenever you do make your interlibrary loan request, like I said before, we'll let you know. We'll email you when it comes in, and I'm just gonna click here to view the item, and it'll save. You can keep as many copies, or up to 5 times you can save this, but you can keep this as long as you want. If you ever do a request for an interlibrary loan article, it'll show up on your account, and you just save it. And you just have it as long as you want. Even if it's something that you can't use immediately, you still might want to come back and reference it for a different class, if it's a research that you find is useful for another area. But I think that'll just about do it for me. I know we don't have an awful lot of time to do this, but I put my information up here in the chat. If there's anyone after this class, if there's anyone who has anything that they want to ask, come by my office, send me an email. I'm right here, ready to help you out for whatever you need.
So Rebecca just asked a question in the chat, and she by mistakenly just sent it to me. But to access the database, I know you missed a few minutes in the beginning. You can go to your MSU login page.
Yeah, under
Your
here, under
login page,
your
and then go to Moffitt Library, your library account, and that's the easiest way for you to go and access the database. And this recording will also be uploaded in the on Detour as soon as it gets.
Yes, I have to go a little quickly
processed.
on these, but
No questions? I know lots of information, but at least it gives you an idea about how to look for your articles and how to brainstorm and everything else. Remember the topic that you chose, you are only looking for articles and citations this week, and then you're actually going to analyze those articles for your next paper. So you're getting 100 points for the looking up articles and your proposal for field experience, and then you actually get 150 points for analyzing those articles. So you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone and having good articles, basically. That gives you all the information. Okay, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. There's a course question discussion board, and don't ever hesitate to answer a peer. It doesn't only have to be an instructor, so you can answer your peer also. But thank you all for being here. I think we are done, and have a great day. It was great to see you guys, and enjoy your day.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. I'm going to, oh wait, I can stop the recording.